Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics. I'm Taylor Phillips, and welcome to episode 60 of Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker. You can also find this and all other episodes of Taylor's Detroit Sports on iHeartRadio. Add me on Facebook as Taylor Phillips, online at facebook.com/Phil1DT. Like my Facebook page, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports page, and join my Facebook group, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports Group. And follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips. In this episode, I recap the 7-2 win for the Tigers over the Cleveland Indians, an injury report on Phil Koch, and the return of Eugenio Suarez. Also, I'm going to preview Game 2 of the Tigers-Indians series, plus plenty of Lions talk and a little bit of Wolverines football and Red Wings, and rounding out the college football schedule, and a couple Red Wings stories here. First off, Tigers started David Price against Carlos Carrasco. Scoring summary starts off with Ryan Rayburn hitting a solo home run in the second inning, making it 1-0 Indians. But Ian Kinsler tied it up with an RBI double, his 38th double on the year for the Tigers. Then the Tigers took the lead in the fourth inning on a J.D. Martinez 2-run home run, making it 3-1. Then in the seventh inning, they would score four more runs on a Victor Martinez RBI single, a 2-run triple by J.D., and an RBI infield single by Alex Avila. All those made it 7-1. And the ninth inning, Jim Johnson got the first two outs in relief after getting the final out in the top of the eighth. But then after those two outs in the ninth, he walked Jason Giambi, a pinch hitter, and then gave up an RBI double to Lonnie Chisenhall, in which there could have been an easy play at the plate made by Ian Kinsler, who didn't even pay attention. That made it 7-2, but Double J froze Zach Walters for a called strikeout to end the game. David Price earned the win, going 7 2/3 innings, giving up 8 hits, 1 earned run, and striking out 7, no walks. He extended his major league lead to 250 strikeouts this season with those 7 strikeouts. He gave up 5 hits out of the first 11 batters he faced, but he retired 16 of his last 19 batters before Johnson came in relief. Carlos Carrasco takes the loss, 6 1/3 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. J.D. Martinez racked up 4 RBIs. He is he is batting .303 this season and has 6 home runs and 18 RBIs against the Indians this season. Game 2 will start with Kyle Lobstein 1-0 with a 2.78 ERA versus Danny Salazar 6-7 with a 4.19 ERA. Kyle Lobstein has shown me something as a call up from the minor leagues. He's coming off that win in his last start. And I think the Tigers should win Game 2. Not so sure about Game 3. Justin Verlander's on the mound against Trevor Bauer. The Tigers offense has owned Trevor Bauer as of late, or they. Well, it's been back and forth between the Tigers offense and Trevor Bauer. Last 2 meetings, Trevor Bauer shut them out at home, but then at Progressive Field in their last meeting, they cleaned his clock. The Royals, the Kansas City Royals, lost to the Boston Red Sox 4-2. So the Tigers take the half-game lead in the American League Central Division. Looking at the rest of the standings, the Indians trail the Tigers. The Indians are in third place still, trailing the Tigers now for first place by 4.5 games. And looking at the wild card, the wild card standings, the Royals are now in the wild card race in a tie with the Seattle Mariners, both at 80 wins and 66 losses. They both co-own the second AL wildcard spot and are a half game behind the Oakland Athletics for the first wildcard spot. The Indians trail the Mariners and the tied Mariners and Royals. Both the Indians and Blue Jays trail the Royals and Mariners by 4 games flat. Both Toronto and Cleveland are 76 and 70. And the New York Yankees trail by 5 games at 75 and 71. The Athletics lost to the Mariners 4-2. The Blue Jays got shut out 1-0 at home against the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Yankees also got shut out in Baltimore again by the Orioles 5-0. One injury report to pass along to you. Tigers left-handed relief pitcher Phil Koch is day-to-day with lower back spasms, but Eugenio Suarez returned after a 5-day hiatus and went 1 for 4 Friday night. All Tigers hitters got at least 1 hit in that contest, except for right fielder Torrey Hunter, who went 0 for 4, except he drew a walk and scored a run. So that's it for Tigers news. Let's move on to the Lions. They play Sunday in Carolina against the Panthers at 1 on your local Fox affiliate. Injury report. The injury report. James Ihedebo at safety is still doubtful, but he kept practicing, so it's more 50-50 or questionable technically, but he's still not likely to play, so that makes him more doubtful. LaAdrian Waddle missed the entire week of practice with a calf sprain and will not play. Don Carey is closer to returning by running on the side after his hamstring injury in the preseason, but he too is ruled out. I have a story to read to you in an article written by Justin Rogers from MLive.com about Lions tight end Eric Ebron still working on timing with quarterback Matthew Stafford. Ebron didn't record a reception in the season-opening win over the New York Giants. He did see 3 passes his direction, none of which were particularly accurate throws. In the opening quarter, quarterback Matthew Stafford tried to find Ebron in the end zone from 18 yards out, but the pass was short and broken up by safety Stevie Brown of the New York Giants. Ebron wasn't targeted again until the second half when Stafford rushed a swing pass that landed at the rookie's feet. Finally, in the final frame, Stafford threw behind the tight end on a deep post. The pair are clearly still working on developing their timing, something Ebron said has been steadily improving since the start of the offseason. Ebron quoted, "It's getting better. It's getting better every day. Not sure how. It's been just a month, 2 months working with him, so it's getting better." Unquote. Each receiver is different, and a quarterback must become accustomed to his pass catcher's stride, speed out of breaks, and catch radius. On the other side, the receiver must grasp the quarterback's drops, pass speed, and pass trajectory. Sometimes the chemistry develops quickly, other times not so much. Offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi said to the media, quote, "Eric is still a young player. You can see on both of those plays. You can see how well he runs. He runs really good routes. Those things will come. He'll make his plays. You just got to wait for them to come to you sometimes." Unquote. Fortunately for the Lions, they aren't counting on Ebron to be a focal point of the offense from day one. The passing game continues to run through Calvin Megatron Johnson, Golden Tate, and the running backs, such as Reggie Bush, Theo Riddick, and Joique Bell. The quarterback, Matthew Stafford, and the rookie, Eric Ebron, at tight end, will look to connect for the first of what should be many times when the Lions traveled to Carolina this Sunday to play the Panthers. Again, that game starts Sunday at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on your local Fox affiliate. Fox Television Network affiliate. I posted a video from MLive.com which features the Detroit Lions reporters debating on whether Panthers defensive end Greg Hardy should play against the Lions on my Facebook page, on my Facebook group's timeline, and on my Facebook sports page's timeline, because the video could not load on my computer. So moving on to Michigan Wolverines football. The Wolverines get ready for Saturday's contest at the Big House, back at home, when they take on the Miami-Ohio Redhawks. Kickoff time is set for 3:30, and it's televised on BTN, the Big Ten Network. The Big Ten Network. Michigan coming off a devastating 31-0 shutout loss at Notre Dame, at number 16 Notre Dame last week. Nick Baumgartner from MLive.com writes an article that says, position breakdown. Michigan obviously has more talent than Miami, Ohio, but will have to play like it. It's time for Michigan to start picking up the pieces. And the first opportunity for that comes against an opponent who knows quite a bit about the team the Wolverines just lost to. Miami, Ohio head coach Chuck Martin is in his first year in charge of a Red Hawk program that hasn't won a football game since 2012, with a losing streak of 18 games. Martin, of course, was most recently Brian Kelly's offensive coordinator at Notre Dame and his successor at Grand Valley State in the early 2000s. Martin doesn't have the talent Kelly does at Notre Dame, and he doesn't have his resume. But he knows his system, and it's a system Michigan could not stop a week ago. This week, we'll see. To the position group breakdowns we go. At quarterback, Michigan last Saturday was far from Devin Gardner's finest hour. 3 interceptions and a lost fumble just doesn't cut it. Nick Baumgartner still believes Gardner has the ability to turn this around and have a fine season, but his margin for error is shrinking by the day. For Miami, Ohio, Notre Dame transfer Andrew Hendricks has been airing it out so far this season. He's thrown for 677 yards in 2 games. But he's also thrown 4 interceptions, and his completion percentage is below 50% against weak competition. The edge is given by Baumgartner to the Wolverines. Running backs, Michigan, through 2 weeks at least, sophomore Davion Smith has shown better vision consistently than Derek Green. Both have had some nice runs, but it'll be interesting to see if Smith gets more work this week based on how he's reading the holes right now. And for the Miami-Ohio Redhawks, they've actually given more carries to wide receiver running back Dawan Scott with 13 than it has Spencer McInnes and Spencer Treadwell. Either way, the Redhawks have only 186 yards on 74 carries through 2 weeks. Michigan has the edge in the running back department. Wide receivers and tight ends. For Michigan, we're going to have to wait and see if Devin Funchess plays. We have yet to get a formal update on his leg-foot injury from Brady Hoke, their head coach. But between Dennis Norfleet and J.U. Chesson, with a little Arama Darbo sprinkled in, Michigan's receivers are absolutely not the team's biggest problem right now. For Miami, Ohio, David Frazier has put up 100-yard days in both of Miami's first 2 games of the season, and teammate Rokeem Williams is averaging better than 22 yards per reception right now. Miami's receivers will more than test Michigan's struggling defensive backfield. But Michigan has the edge in the wide receivers, tight ends department. And the offensive line. For Michigan, call Baumgartner crazy, but he didn't think Michigan's offensive line was putrid last week. I thought holes were there in the ground game. They just weren't always seen. Gardner faced some pressure, but he also held on to the football way too long. Expect Graham Glasgow to get the start again at right guard over Kylie Kalis. For Miami, Ohio, Michigan's allowed 14 tackles for loss this season, but Miami's allowed more, up to 19 now. The Redhawks are the 5th worst team nationally in that department, and they've also allowed 9 sacks in 2 games, which is the 2nd worst nationally. The edge goes to Michigan, to the Wolverines, to the Michigan Wolverines. Now on defense, starting with the defensive line. For the Wolverines, their running defense completely stopped Notre Dame in its tracks last week. The pass rush from the front 4 didn't produce much early, but that's more due to the fact that no one was covering. Willie Henry continues to look like the best defensive lineman on the team. 12 tackles for loss throughout 12 tackles for losses through 2 games isn't anything to shake a stick at. For the Miami-Ohio Redhawks, they haven't been miserable against the rush, especially last week. 32 carries for 82 yards allowed, but that came against an FCS squad. Still, Miami's defensive front isn't miserable. Defensive ends Jatarius Brown and Bryson Albright aren't big. 239 and 226 pounds, respectively, but they're savvy enough to make tackles Ben Braden and Mason Cole pay for mistakes. So, a slight edge goes to the Michigan Wolverines. Linebackers. Michigan will likely spend most of this game in the nickel again, as it did a week ago against the Fighting Irish. Remember, Chuck Martin was Notre Dame's offensive coordinator last season, so expect more from Jake Ryan and Joel Bolden, who combined for 21 stops last week. They look better, but are still feeling each other out. They are still feeling each other out a bit. For the Redhawks, Kent Kern was an all-conference linebacker for Miami last season, and is probably the defense's top player. He might actually be the best player on the team, which would explain why Miami's been decent against the run. The Redhawks' front 7 is solid, but Michigan is better. That's why the Wolverines have that edge in the linebackers department. In the secondary, Michigan was a nightmare back here a week ago against Notre Dame, and we still don't know if it'll have Jabril Peppers and Raymond Taylor back in uniform. This was Michigan's biggest problem on the field a week ago, and it wasn't close. Miami, Ohio starting corner Quentin Rollins spent the past 4 seasons playing basketball at Miami. Through 2 weeks as a football player, he's done something no Michigan player has done this season, which is making an interception. The Redhawks are not elite back here, but as we've seen, neither is Michigan. So both teams are even in the secondary edge. And finally, special teams. We'll see if Matt Weil is still Michigan's place kicker on Saturday. Kenny Allen got some reps this week in practice, but he's never attempted a college kick. Still, Weil is 1 for 4 and 6 for 12 all time. Not exactly a great start in field goals. They're kickers. Redhawks kicker Caleb Patterson was 1 of 3 last week against Eastern Kentucky, but he's a proven kicker. He was number 1 on the program's all-time field goal percentage list. All-time field goal percentage list entering the season at 83%, and he's been a starter for the past 3 seasons. So the edge goes to the Miami-Ohio Redhawks. Obviously. Again, you can catch Saturday's game between the Wolverines and the Redhawks at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on BTN. The Spartans have the bye week this Saturday, but they play the Eastern Michigan Eagles in East Lansing at Spartan Stadium next week, Saturday at noon on BTN. Central Michigan Chippewas play host to the Syracuse Orangemen at Kelly Short Stadium at noon Saturday on ESPN News. And the Eastern Michigan Eagles visit the Old Dominion Monarchs Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern. The Western Michigan Broncos go out west and play go out to the West Coast and play the Idaho Vandals at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And it's going to be on ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN mobile app on your smartphone. Now to some hockey. Red Wings head coach Mike Babcock assigns duties to new assistant coaches Tony Granato and Jim Hiller. Ansar Khan writes, Jim Hiller will be responsible for helping improve the Detroit Red Wings' mediocre power play, and Tony Granato, an NHL forward for 13 seasons and an experienced head coach, will be working with the club's defensemen. Andrew Brewer is the coordinator of coaching, not a video coach per se. The Red Wings have an entirely new coach. The Red Wings have an entirely new staff of assistant coaches, and head coach Mike Babcock has assigned their duties. Babcock quoted, "Hiller's going to do the power play, and he's going to stand next to me on the bench. Granato is going to do the back end. He's going to do the penalty kill." I could have hired a veteran NHL defenseman to do the same as Granato, but I couldn't find as good a coach as Tony, so I hired the best coach I possibly could. He's a passionate hockey guy. He's going to make the head coach way better. The Red Wings ranked 18th in the league on the power play at 17.7%. Injuries to key components like Pavel Datsyuk, Henrik Zetterberg, and Johan Franzen are partially to blame, but the club hasn't ranked in the top 10 since 2010 and 2011 season. Since the 2010-2011 season, not only those, it doesn't mean that the injuries are 100% to blame. Players and fans just can't keep complaining about just the injuries. I've heard this like millions and billions of times. Injuries. Injuries my rear end. If you want to avoid getting injured, be more careful on the ice. And yes, you can control your body. Just harness it carefully. Don't over-control it recklessly. Mike Babcock is hoping Hiller, who coached in the Western Hockey League the past 8 years, can bring fresh ideas. He said, quote, "What I like about Jim Hiller is I don't want to say he sees it differently than me, but he sees it offensively. He's got an analytical mind and thinks about it offensively. Former Red Wing Dallas Straight gave him a huge plug. Dallas is one of my favorites. They played together at Northern Michigan and briefly with the Red Wings and grew up together," unquote. Babcock also talked about Andrew Brewer, whom, and I quote, "is in charge of us all. He's flat out just in charge. He said to me 2 weeks ago, 'Babs, you're not allowed here. Those guys need a week without you. He's different than what I've been around before,' unquote. The Red Wings replace assistant coaches Bill Peters, hired as head coach by the Carolina Hurricanes, and Tom Rennie, who took over as head coach of Hockey Canada. Video coach Keith McKittrick took a job as an assistant with the Portland Winterhawks of the WHL. Babcock doesn't want to be surrounded by yes men. He said, quote, "In their job description, you bring in a new idea every day, and then you fight for it like crazy. My thought there is you've got to be able to convince me. That doesn't mean I'm so hard-headed I can't learn." Blash, former Red Wings assistant and current Grand Rapids Griffins coach Jeff Blashill, and Pete came here and they brought this thing called the Swarm. We did it right out of the get-go. I didn't even know what it was. I'm willing to do anything as long as we're getting better. I really believe as a coach you have to get better. You have to get better every year. Those guys will make us better. They're different. That makes your program new, and it should make it fresh for the players. And it's fresh for me, and it's fresh for me, and it's exciting. Unquote. Taking a look at the prospect tournament in Traverse City at Center Ice. Anthony Mantha scores twice in the first round opener against the St. Louis Blues. The number one prospect. He's turning pro after a pair of 50-goal season capped an outstanding junior career that ended with him being named the QMJHL MVP and CHL Player of the Year. He didn't disappoint the 1,200 fans who showed up on the first game of the Prospects Tournament. Mantha scored twice Friday night as the Red Wings opened defense of their Prospects Tournament championship with a 6-5 overtime victory over the St. Louis Blues at CentreIce Arena. Brendan Savage writes from MLive.com, free agent invitee Joe Hicketts scored the winning goal with 1:50 left in overtime, burying a pass from Martin Frk, FRK, into the opener corner of the net. Mantha, who scored 57 goals last season, after being the Red Wings' first round pick, 20th overall in the 2013 draft, opened the scoring on the Red Wings' second shot of the game by burying a shot under the crossbar 6 minutes after the opening faceoff. He made it 3-1 less than 4 minutes into the second on a pretty goal. Martin Frk threw the puck out from the corner toward the net, and Mantha batted it out of midair past St. Louis goaltender Nicholas Lundstrom. In between Andreas Athanasio, who scored 49 goals in his final junior campaign last season, also tallied for the Red Wings when he fired a rocket of a wrist shot past Lundstrom on a power play midway through the first period. St. Louis erased the Red Wings' 3-1 lead by scoring 3 straight goals while dominating much of the second period. The Blues outshot Detroit 12-8 in the second period as the Red Wings were hit with 3 penalties in a span of 3 minutes and 2 seconds. The Blues scored 3 of their first 4 goals on the power play, taking a 4-3 lead with 8:45 left in the second, when Thomas Vanelli scored during a 5-on-3 power play. 5-on-3 power play. The Red Wings tied it on Zach Nastasiak's goal. Zach Nastasiak. 6:15 into the third before Jadon Deschanel put St. Louis back in front with 4:35 left in the third period. But Ryan Sprawl of the Red Wings tied it with 51.4 seconds remaining after Detroit pulled goaltender Jared Coreau for an extra attacker. Coreau made 19 saves. Ty Reddy, C.J. Yakimowicz, and Yannick Villu also scored for St. Louis. Not very many game notes in the first round of the prospect tournament. Anthony Mantha skated on a line with Martin Firk and Thomas Nosek. Firk, Sprawl, and Nastasiuk served as the Red Wings' alternate captains. There was no team captain. Almost 150 scouts representing more than 20 NHL teams were on hand. The overtime format being used is 4 minutes of 4-on-4, followed by 3 minutes of 3-on-3 if necessary. And that's the end of that article. So that's going to do it for episode 60 of Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker. I will be back for episode 61 after the Tigers game. After game 2 of the Tigers and Indians series. I will recap that and all of the college football games from around the Mitten, including the Michigan Wolverines and Miami-Ohio Redhawks, plus the CMU Chippewas taking on the Syracuse Orangemen. Till then, this is Taylor Phillips saying TTFN, ta-ta for now.